Ladies and gentlemen, love is in the air. It's always in the air. Every single day, new people meet each other and begin what could possibly become a romantic relationship. And since this is a real-life phenomenon, it's no surprise that we see it depicted in fictional media. Everyone has their favorite rom-com movie. Everyone has two characters in their favorite anime that they ship together. But what about video games? What about the Yakuza series specifically? What does the Yakuza series teach us about love and romantic relationships? Well, first and foremost, the Yakuza series isn't known for its depiction of romantic relationships. It's definitely not the first thing that pops up in your head when someone mentions the series by name, and most fans don't pay that much attention to the already existing relationships in the games. But one thing is for certain, romantic relationships in the Yakuza games definitely do exist. In fact, there's way more than you think. But for this video, I'm specifically going to analyze the 3 relationships that have the most material to discuss. In this lovey-dovey expedition through the Yakuza series, we look at the way Majima x Makoto, Kiryu x Sayama, and Ichiban x Saiko are depicted and analyze how well their romances are depicted. So if you have a significant other, make sure you're watching this with them. If you don't have a significant other, just grab your favorite drink and snack of choice and enjoy the ride as I analyze romance in Yakuza. In Yakuza 0, Majima is trapped in the metaphorical cage that is Sotenbori after enduring a whole year of torture in a Yakuza black site by his boss Shimano. His oath brother, Saejima, is serving what's believed to be a life sentence in prison after carrying out a hit that Majima was also supposed to be a part of but was absent. In order to get out of this cage and make things right for his oath brother, he has to get back into the Tojo clan. But the only way he can do that is if he satisfies his supervisor Sagawa by making 100 million yen at a cabaret club. That's not the only requirement though, or even the most important one. He also has to assassinate someone named Makoto Makimura, a Chinese immigrant in search of her brother who ran away to Japan. Makoto Makimura moves through several jobs in the city of Sotenbori, trying to find out where her brother could possibly be, asking every fellow Chinese person she comes across. Unfortunately, she becomes a victim of human trafficking after being lied to by a man who claimed to know his brother. This man was Jun Oda. Oda kidnapped her and locked her in a cage. Suffering extreme trauma, Makoto went blind, Oda's bat tattoo being the last thing she saw, and then she was trafficked to a Korean crime syndicate. Luckily, she was eventually rescued by an acupuncturist named Wen Hai Lee, and shortly after that becomes an employee at the massage parlor he owns. Unbeknownst to her, in this time period, she automatically inherits a piece of land that her grandfather used to own after he dies.
What? 何がことあんで。
どなたですか？あれ、お客様ですか？おかしいな。すみません。誰かいらっしゃってますか？
なんやこいつ目が。
もうドア開けっぱなしで出かけちゃったのかしら。
These two meet each other for the first time in an almost slapstick-like manner. Majima has a deed to do, but he doesn't know if the woman he's just come across is Makoto Makimura, so he has to be very discreet so he doesn't get caught in his assassination plot. But that doesn't work. Now, if you were to judge, would you say that these two are going to develop feelings for each other? I'd say not really. What is established in this scene is that Makoto clearly hasn't recovered from her experience with human trafficking. She's still suffering from the trauma she has because of that experience. Majima, on the other hand, completely oblivious to this, is trying to figure out what sort of situation he has gotten himself into.
違うや俺客や客やって聞けやおいええから聞けや泥棒やったらとっくに逃げとるわ落ち着けやな
どこにいたんですか
俺は今店に入ってきたとこやいきなりあんたがすごい勢いで突進してきたもんやから避けきれんかったんやビビったのは俺の方やで
でも今日の予約はもう入っていないはずです。
そうなんかいや実はもう体がバラバラになりそうなくらい辛くてなそしたら知り合いにこの店の店長の話聞いてななんやゴッドハンドっちゅう噂らしいやんかせやから飛んできたっちゅうわけなんやけどおい
すみません怖くてすみません
ええんやで店長はおらんのか
今日は出かけて帰ってきませんすみません
なんで謝るんや分かったとにかく出直すわ
本当にすみません
泣くなや
どこがお辛いんですかさっき体がバラバラになりそうって治療されるなら早く予約をされた方が
ああそれはもうええんやほなまだな
やっ
ぱり
He's accused of being a thief, and he needs to figure out how he can escape this situation without causing this woman any more trauma. His solution? To get a massage from her. Not a bad one considering the fact that she's blind and can't recognize that Majima is a Yakuza.
違う言うとるやろがほら分かったお姉ちゃんにやってもらおうかなそれなら納得してもらえるかほな姉ちゃんの話聞かせてくれやなんや趣味とかあるんか
そうですね展示の本を読んだりもしますけどラジオを聞く方が好きかな
ラジオか人と話すのが好き言うんやったらあんたホステスなんか向いとるんとちゃうか
私がですかさすがにそれは
What you just saw was basically a glorified first date. She asks him about what he does for a living. He asks her about what her hobbies are. The quintessential questions to ask on a first date. They continue talking about what you'd expect two people to talk about on a first date until her boss arrives back in the parlor.
店長
いや参った財布忘れたまま飯食うてもうたわ
また忘れ物ですか店長
お戦術中かいらっしゃいほう
The boss is a little suspicious of Majima for obvious reasons. Majima and Lee fight each other until they're interrupted by a bunch of other Yakuza who then kidnap Makoto as soon as she returns.
おれさっさと連れてけなんやこりゃ
おっと兄ちゃんどこ行く気や
ほんまにあの子が牧村誠なんか
ああそれがどないした中華はあれ何もんやね
あの女は俺の獲物やお前らの勝手にされたら困んねえ
そらこっちのセリフやボケ前あんたも死んどき
3 hours later
After a series of perilous tasks, Majima eventually rescues Makoto from those Yakuza, and he escorts her through the city until they find a hiding place.
ここまで来たら大丈夫やろ。お前大丈夫か。おい、何を。なんや。大丈夫や。もう大丈夫や。
店長は
心配すんな。奴も逃げた。すぐに会えるはずや。
本当に。
ああ。
どうしてこんなことに。
Majima decides not to kill her. I wonder why that is. Throughout Chapter 7 and Chapter 8, Majima and Makoto grow a bit closer. In Chapter 7 specifically, we see them bond over shared trauma after Majima finds out about Makoto's backstory.
少しやけど、俺もお前に似たとこがあるんや。俺は片っぽだけやが目が見えん。それだけやない。いつ死んでもおかしない場所で俺も長いこと監禁されとった。
Later in this chapter, we see them literally flirt with each other.
目どうしたの？
ん？
その片目がなんで見えなくなったのかなって。
ああ。俺の場合は怪我っちゅうかな。事故みたいなもんでもう完全に潰れてもうだ。
そんな。
もう一つの目は残っとる。別にそれで十分や。
かわいそう。
な？アホか。お前の方がよっぽどやろ。
私の目は心因性だからいつか治るかもってリーさんが。
そうなんか？なら望みはまだあるっちゅうことやな。よかったやないか。
でもあなたの目は。
もう慣れとる。そない不自由しとらんわ。せいぜい男前が台無しになっただけや。
男前なんだ。
目が揃っとったらな。お見せできんのが残念やで、ほんま。
Technically, that was flirting.
残念。
少しは笑えるようになったか。うん？なんやお前、時計しとるんか。
え？うん。
見えへんのにけったいなやっちゃ。
まあね。でも可愛いでしょ。
せやから見えへんのやろうちゅうとるやろが。まったく。
分かってるよ。でもね、これオルゴールの曲が鳴るの。それがまた可愛くって癒されるんだ。
うん？どないなことや？
今はならない。だって時計が壊れてるから。
なんやねん。
So far, we've seen that Majima and Makoto are pretty similar in the sense that they both feel like they're trapped. Majima by the Yakuza, Makoto by her trauma, and the fact that multiple different factions of Yakuza are chasing after her.
誰やお前。
At the end of Chapter 8, Majima and Makoto are separated, but I'd say that we saw substantial growth in their bond together. And these chapters also kind of solidify that they do have chemistry with each other. Majima and Makoto eventually come into contact again, but in that time that they're separated, a lot happens. Makoto finds out everything about the piece of land she's inheriting from her grandfather.
私は祖父が死んだことも今まで知らなかったんです。祖父の聞いたこともない土地のせいでこんなことに巻き込まれて。
And the fact that the Tojo clan is after her because of that, because they want to own that piece of land. After arriving in Kamurocho, she also finds out that her brother, the person that she's been looking for since forever, since she set foot in Japan, has unfortunately been murdered by the Tojo clan in their pursuit of that piece of land. Majima, on the other hand,
いってや。ちくしょう。いや、マジマ。誠っちゅう女生かした責任きっちりと取らんかい。行けやマジマ。
お前の牧村誠への覚悟痛いほど伝わった。
ほなさっさと言えや。誠は誰の手に渡ったんや。
不動産会社の人間だ。
不動産会社？なんで不動産屋が？
本人も知らないところで牧村誠は土地の所有者になっていたんだ。その一坪で10億と言われる空の一坪のな。
一坪10億？そんな土地どこにあるんや。
Majima finds out about the fact that Makoto is inheriting that piece of land the Tojo clan is after. Sagawa, remember that guy? Yeah, he takes Majima to Kamurocho in order to track down Makoto for themselves because he still supposedly has an assassination deed to do. Once in Kamurocho, Majima is told that his boss, Shimano, wants to see him. Shimano reveals that he was the one who ordered Sagawa to order Majima to kill Makoto. That was a convoluted sentence. However, Shimano never actually intended for Majima to kill Makoto. He wanted Makoto to willingly give the piece of land to Shimano and Sagawa with Majima's help, so that Shimano could rise to power within the Tojo clan. Shimano simply gave the kill order so that he could humiliate him for his unwillingness to murder. Yeah, Majima's boss is one evil motherfucker. But hey, at least Majima doesn't have to kill the woman he's about to develop feelings for, right?
お前見えとるんか。
なんとか街を歩ける程度にはね。あなたがそこにいるってことくらいは見える。
どないなっとんねん。
今日あの空の一坪で兄と10年ぶりに会った。でもその時私は目が見えなかったし、兄はもう殺されてた。 その兄の体に触れた時ね、ずっと見えなかった目が光を感じ始めたの。
そんなことがあるんか。
兄の顔はどんなに顔を近づけてもはっきりとは分からなかった。分かったのはひどい拷問を受けて殺されたこと。堂島組のヤクザたちが兄をあんな土地のせいで。
まさか復讐なんて考えなよ。やけになるな。事情が変わったんや。俺の雇い主はもうお前を殺さん言うとる。今のそいつの狙いはお前の命じゃない。あの土地をお前から買い取ることなんや。せやからそいつに会うて土地手放したらもう誰にも狙われんようになる。安心せえ。俺が一緒におる。何があっても必ず守ったる。
私のことなんかどうでもいい。私には死んでもやらなきゃいけないことがある。もしあなたが私を助けたいと思うなら手を貸して。兄を殺したのは殻の一つを狙うヤクザたち、堂島組の3人の幹部、そして堂島宗平。
俺にそいつらを殺せっちゅうんか。
お金なら払える。10億で足りる？もともと私のことも殺そうとしたんでしょ。お願いだからあいつらを殺して。きっとあなたは兄がそのために私と出会わせてくれたんだよ。だったら兄は私が仇を討つのを望んでるってことでしょ。
お前の兄貴がそんな男のわけないやろが。待てよ。
ほっといて。もう一人で平気だから。
誠。
ほっといて。
なあ、たこ焼き食いかんか。
It's very clear that Majima still cares about Makoto. You'd think at this point in the story, Majima shouldn't care about Makoto because of the fact that he doesn't have to assassinate her anymore. But he still cares. Remember when I said he's about to develop feelings? Yeah, I was wrong. He caught feelings a long time ago. He even remembers that Makoto likes takoyaki.
なんさ気ぃつけや。2つくれや。
はいよ。
はよしてや。
はいはい。優しいんだね。
うるさいわ。
いい人じゃないね。
ぐだぐだ言うとらんとさっさと焼けや。
いい人です。私なんかのために大変な目にあってもまだ私を助けようとしてくれる。この人がいなかったら今頃もう私は美味しそうですね。いい匂い。
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the moment that Majima fell in love with Makoto Makimura. Now, the question we must ask ourselves is why? Why did Majima fall in love with Makoto? And why did Makoto reciprocate those feelings? Well, just like love in general, it's complicated. I think in order to answer that question, we have to consider the two perspectives in this equation. Majima is a Yakuza. He's been one since he was a teenager. The Yakuza life is pretty much all he knows at this point. He's so dedicated to this life that even after enduring a whole year of torture in a literal Yakuza black site at the mercy of his boss, He still wants to get back into the Tojo clan and the Shimano family. Makoto, on the other hand, is still ridden by the trauma of her past, as a victim of human trafficking, something she still struggles to talk about. Essentially, what I'm saying is that they're both very constrained to something from their pasts. So yeah, when they're together, at least after Majima rescues Makoto for the first time, they bring out parts of each other that they've suppressed for a while. Really good example of when this happens is when they flirt for the first time. The fact that they bring the best out of each other, sides of themselves they've had suppressed because of circumstance and trauma, is the main reason why they fall in love. The chemistry they have is definitely grounds for a relationship. So, do they tie the knot? Well, no. They still have a problem to solve. The Tojo clan is still after that piece of land, and Makoto now holds ownership of it. After that takoyaki scene, they both find a bench to sit on. Makoto asks Majima to buy more takoyaki, while Makoto waits at the bench. And unsurprisingly, when Majima comes back, he discovers that he was swindled. She leaves him a message saying to meet her at the empty lot the next day. She's planning to handle the Tojo clan on her own. Makoto meets with Sohei Dojima by herself, and she asks him to kill his lieutenants in exchange for that piece of land. But Dojima refuses, saying that as long as she silenced their plans for that empty piece of land can persist. She is shot by their hired hitman, just as Majima bursts through the doors.
なんやこれは。何しとるんやお前。誠。己ら全員地獄に送ったぜ。ぶっ殺したぜ。
If you were still skeptical about the romantic connection between Majima and Makoto at this point in the story for some reason, then that scene right there should have sealed the deal for you. Yakuza 0 is a love story.
生きとる。おい誠、聞こえるか。しっかりせえ。おい、俺がわからんのか。返事せえや、誠。
ごめんなさい。
誠。
私だけじゃ何もできなかった。またあなたに迷惑。
もう喋らんでええ。
Makoto is taken to the hospital to recover from her bullet wound, and Majima doesn't leave her side until she's taken into the operation room. As the doors to the operation room close, Majima breaks down, vowing that he'll grant her wish of eliminating the Dojima family. He thus goes on a mad dog rampage through the Dojima family HQ, and eventually gets to the point of almost killing Sohei Dojima himself. But he's interrupted by Sarah, who reveals that Makoto has given him possession of the land, and that Makoto has recovered but is now in a coma. Can they still be together in the end? The last scene in Yakuza 0 before the credits is probably one of the best in the whole series. I'm going to focus solely on the fact that it tells the audience that Majima is obviously still in love with Makoto. He's realized that the prospect of them being together is pretty much impossible though. At the end of the day, he's still a Yakuza and she's a civilian. And not any ordinary civilian, a civilian with a lot of baggage that's best dealt with in a therapeutic setting and eventually left in the past. In Majima's mind, she wouldn't be able to finally live a life without scorn and trauma and leave it in the past if she's in a relationship with him. And this fact hurts Majima greatly. And at first, I didn't understand Majima's thought process because in my mind, the two could still be together. The only thing that Majima would need to do is leave the Yakuza, but then I remembered what happened to the last guy that tried to do that. Majima would never be able to do that, and that's how I came to empathize with Majima and understand his perspective. He still loves her, but he knows they can never be a thing, but he still wants her to be happy, so he makes sure that she remains with her other potential to-be lover, the doctor that's been helping her regain her eyesight.
お前の女か。
いや、彼女は私の患者だ。
なんや先生って、医者かいな。惚れとんのか。
何？
どうなんや。
何よ、急に。
そのげんこつがそう言うとる。でも男が一旦げんこつこしらえたら、そのけじめは取るもんや。どうなんや、先生。
お前、彼女に指一本でも触れたら。
喧嘩なら相手が悪いで。あんた人殴ったらあかん。それにけじめのつけ方は喧嘩だけやない。けじめつけてくれや。俺のためにも。
あんたの？
ええからさっさと答えんかい。
彼女はああ見えてついこの間までずっと目が見えなかった。だから彼女にはまだ周囲に慣れる時間が必要で。
で、どないやねん。惚れとんのか、惚れとらんのか。
愛している。医者としてではなく、一人の男として。
俺は嘘が大嫌いやで。
嘘じゃない。彼女に話したことさえないが。
ならはよ言うてやらんかい。で、
Confess his love to Makoto, something Majima himself really wants to do but can't, so he does it vicariously through this doctor.
大丈夫でしたか？何かされたんじゃ。
何も、全然平気です。
そうか、よかった。あの人悲しそうな目をしてたな。でも先生、あの人と何を話してたんですか？
いや、そうだ。今から少し話する時間ないかな。
はい。
Well, that was a tearjerker, and a very bittersweet ending. 18 years later, they cross paths again. This is depicted in the Majima Saga mode in Yakuza Kiwami 2. Remember that massage parlor that Makoto used to work at? And remember the fact that it was owned by a dude named Wenhai Lee? Well, I forgot to mention that. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore because... So after that happened, and obviously everything else in Yakuza 0, Makoto reopens that massage parlor. which obviously closed because... And she's been operating it for 18 years in hopes of finding the man who saved her life many years ago so she can thank him. In February, Makoto is working her last week at the massage parlor, as her family will soon move overseas. She is called to serve a client. The client, who is the one and only Majima, tries to hide his face in case she recognizes him. Makoto catches Majima looking at her watch and then explains that she had to replace the band of the watch after it wore out, though she still prefers the old brown leather instead. Why does she prefer the old brown leather instead? Well, that's obvious. Still unaware of who he is, she recollects the story of how Majima saved her, then brings him up to speed on what has happened in her life since then. After Majima's massage is finished, he subtly says goodbye to Makoto one last time.
以前どこかでお会いしましたっけ?
Makoto and her family eventually leave Japan. While they're aboard a plane, Makoto opens the gift that the receptionist at the massage parlor had given to her before her departure.
パスポート。
これ誠さん宛てで店に届いてたんです。
She opens the box to find replacement watch bands in the same style as her old ones.
昔私がしてた。どうして？古い型なので替えがこの色しか見つからなくて。元々のデザインがもっと落ち着いてて好きだったんですけどね。ベルトはさすがによれちゃったんで交換したんですけどね。もう20年ぐらいかな。ずっと大事に使ってるんです。
And realizes that the client was the same man who looked out for her in 1988. Now realizing she has thanked her savior, she tells her husband that she has no regrets.
もうすぐ新しい生活が始まるんだね。
心残りでもあるのか？
ないよ。本当に。
So what purpose do these scenes serve? Why did RGG go out of their way to make this? I say they did it because they wanted to tie what they thought was a loose thread in Yakuza 0. I mean, Makoto finally gets to say thank you to Majima, in the place where they first met no less, something she's obviously really wanted to do since the last time they saw each other was in 1989. So really, it serves as an ending to Makoto's character arc. And for all the Majima x Makoto lovers out there, if Yakuza 0's ending didn't convince you that they will never be an item, then this for sure will. And if you're sad, I understand that. They had a real chemistry, but at the same time, their paths kind of had to diverge. If they continued to cross, it probably wouldn't have ended very well. Not to mention the fact that it wasn't like Majima didn't like being a Yakuza. He was, and still is, dedicated to that life.
何があっても親父の子ですわ。
Sure, Makoto brought out a different side of him, but I guess Majima wanted to keep that part of himself buried behind the Mad Dog persona. Why? I honestly don't know. The dude's just complicated like that. And you still have to keep in mind that there isn't a reality where Majima leaves the Yakuza for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's where this love story ends. I'll say it again. It's very bittersweet. And spoiler alert, it's probably the most well-written romance in this whole series because it kinda goes downhill from here. We're not gonna see anything horrible, but the quality is definitely gonna deteriorate a little bit. So I made sure I started this video with, the best romantic relationship. So you should be thanking me for that because now we're gonna fall off a little bit.